Prime Minister Dato' Najib Tun Razak, for the first time in 8 years, visited Kampugn Sungai Terentang since the problem began when TNB decided. Kampugn Sungai Terentang is a new village with 5,000 to 6,000 inhabitants, and they are going to build 60-meter high 330 megawatts transmission lines. It's very much like Linus. The people there are fighting to maintain their health and their way of life. In 2005, the minister that was in charge, Tan Sri Lim King Yik, told the residents that if the state government would provide land for the alternative route, the federal government will direct TNB to take the alternative route. At that time, of course, the government was under Barisan Nasional with the Chief Minister Kir Toyo, and insisted that the route would have to go through the new village. In 2008, we saw a change in government. Tan Sri Khalid and the Pakatan Rakyat government provided 4 options, but TNB refused. Gan Peni, the Adun for Rawang, myself and the committee tried to have a meeting with the minister, but we were unsuccessful. We have been unsuccessful for the last 5 years to get the federal government to discuss with TNB to accept the routes. In January of this year, finally TNB proposed 2 alternative routes that would not go through the village. Of course, the residents, the villagers have no objection to this. And it is minuted in the Exco MTES minutes that the state would also have no problems and ask TNB to provide the details. Unfortunately, because the elections are near, TNB has not proceeded to give the final details for this proposal, which would otherwise have solved the entire problem. Now, the Prime Minister comes to the village, and as expected, with his very famous concept of "you help me, I help you," asked the villagers that if they help Barisan Nasional Selangor to take back the state government, then the Prime Minister will ensure that TNB does not go through the new village. I think this is an example of the weaknesses in the Prime Minister as a leader. There are 2 kinds of leaders. One we call the transactional leader. That is, he depends on a transaction. I give you something, you give me something back in return. This is a very shallow kind of leadership. And this is what Najib has been going around the whole country, making offers in exchange for the people to vote Barisan Nasional in. What we want is a principled leader. That means a leader that makes decisions based on principles. In the case of Kampugn Sungai Terentang and Rawang, the principle is very clear. It is wrong for TNB to bulldoze their way through the new village with 6,000 inhabitants when there are alternatives. So the principle is very clear. They should not do so, and the Prime Minister should exercise his powers to solve the problem immediately. That is what a principled leader should do. Unfortunately, he has taken advantage of the situation to force another transaction. That shows he lacks the very basic values of becoming a leader. Because if you see something that is wrong and the principle demands that action be taken immediately, it should not be made use of, in other words, to extort the people. This is the very clear example of a failure in the leadership qualities of Najib. And I ask the people of Malaysia to look at this, to take this into consideration and weigh it against Dato' Sri Anwar Ibrahim, who has stood for his principles, who have fought for it with courage and conviction. He has been beaten up, put into the courts, accused of having committed sodomy, attacked as agents of the Chinese, agents of the Jews, but he maintains his principle that we want to have change, we want to have a just society, we want to get rid of corruption, and the most important, we want a multi-racial country based on equity. So I ask all Malaysians to take into consideration the two leaders and the type of leader that you think that will lead Malaysia back to where it would be and the kind of country that you want your children to live in.